I've stated my allegiance on this channel in a past video about the driver I was an avid fan of and followed heavily throughout his career, Kasey Kahne. But that one video is the only time I've ever shed much of a light on him. I feel like it's time to give him his flowers some more and showcase the best moments in my 15 years enduring all his ups and downs that made it all worth it. Kasey won 18 Cup races from 2005 to 2017, and I took the time to extract the 10 biggest / most meaningful to me, him, and all the Kasey Kahne fans out there. I should also add that this consists of points races only. Kasey did win the All-Star race in 2008 and a Gatorade Duel in 2010 and a thrilling photo finish with Tony Stewart, but those are a different story. This is obviously subjective, but I think for the most part the masses will be on board with this list. So without further ado, here are the 10 biggest wins of Kasey Kahne's career in the NASCAR Cup Series. Number 10, the 2013 GoBowling.com 400 at Pocono. This race essentially came down to a green-white checkered restart and a battle with teammate Jeff Gordon. But what led up to it made it even more intense. A debris caution with 12 to go wiped out a 7-second lead by Kasey, who had the fastest car of the day, jeopardizing his chances of closing out the deal. Jeff took over the lead on the ensuing restart, but after another caution for a Matt Kenseth spin, it gave Kasey another shot to redeem himself. Jeff got the jump on the last restart and looked to have both lanes covered, but going into turn 1, he left the top lane open and Kasey sailed it in there alongside the 24 after a big shove from Kurt Busch. He was able to complete the pass and the tunnel turn and left everyone in the dust, all but sealing his ticket to the chase that year. He had a few frustrating second place runs behind his on-track nemesis Kenseth that year too, which made this such a relief to finally close one out. And getting around one of the best to ever do it en route to victory when it counted made it that much sweeter. Number 9, the 2008 Coca-Cola 600. Kasey won this marathon staple of a race 3 times, but in the second one of those 3, this one more or less fell in his lap. After a typical nail-biting last-minute pit cycle in the 600 to make it to the end on fuel, Kasey cycled out in second behind Tony Stewart after trying to hold him off from the lead beforehand. The Budweiser crew inexplicably left him in his stall about 3 seconds too long, and it put him 6 seconds behind Tony when it all sorted out. But the racing gods just felt like stirring things up, and Tony suddenly cut down a right front tire with 3 to go, giving up a sure win as Kasey flew by in turn 3 to rack up his first W that year and cement himself as a multi-time winner of a NASCAR crown jewel. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Number 8, the 2013 Food City 500. This win meant a lot to me because Kasey was mostly known as an intermediate track merchant. He had great runs at Bristol before, just sour luck. He got wrecked by Jamie McMurray in his rookie year while running in the top 5. In 2007, he led over 300 laps but got overtaken by Carl Edwards, who stole the win that night. But finally winning there was really cool to me, and it solidified him as a respected short track racer. He also never won this early in the year except in 2006, so this knocked out 2 birds with 1 stone, killing those narratives and kick-started that season for him. Kasey was a top 3 car all race and led 109 laps, had a real headache of a time trying to get around Brad Keselowski in the closing laps, but on a restart with 40 to go, Brad spun the tires and that was all it took. Unlike the first 2 additions on this list, there wasn't any drama to speak of at the end, and it was a rather comfortable win for him and the 5 team. Kasey said himself after the race this was a big accomplishment for him to win there, so that's all the validation I needed to put this win in the top 10. Number 7, the 2009 Toyota SafeMart 350 at Sonoma. Speaking of killing narratives, Kasey was never in the conversation to win a road course race much at all in his career. Besides super speedways, this was his definite weakness. I never went into a Sonoma or Watkins Glen race expecting anything, but on this day, he flipped the script. This wasn't some fluke either. He started 3rd, led 37 laps, and said at one point during a mid-race pit stop that this was the best handling car he'd ever had here. To top it all off, he had to hold off 2 road course experts in Tony Stewart and Marcus Ambrose. He was consistently outrunning them and survived a flurry of late race restarts to end it all with a wine celebration with the King Richard Petty himself. None of this made sense, but it was quite the pleasant surprise for us Kahne fans, further adding to the variety of his race-winning resume. Number 6, the 2012 Coca-Cola 600. This was Kasey's 3rd Coke 600 victory and put him in elite company. Only 7 other drivers have won this race at least 3 times, and they're all legendary Hall of Famers. This was also his first win driving for Hendrick Motorsports, validating Rick Hendrick's decision of putting him in the seat for the 5 car. Kasey wasn't the dominant car of the night. He didn't even lead in the entire first half of the race, but he was a top 5 car, and when the sun set, he came to life. He got around Denny Hamlin with ease and was in total control the last 100 miles, cruising to the win and keeping the momentum going into what would be the best points finish of his career. This felt like Kasey belonged in the top echelon of the Cup Series for the first time in a long time, making it a no-doubt top 10 win on this list. Number 5. The 2011 Cobalt Tools 500 at Phoenix. Kasey had just come off a winless season and was about to have another until the 11th hour of the 2011 season with 2 races to go. When you factor in that it was with a struggling Red Bull racing team who had just one win as an organization to that point, it showed how capable he was of getting the best out of his equipment. Kasey wasn't a title contender that year, and all the attention was focused on the heated battle between Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards, but he stole the spotlight at the end when his pit crew came through for him on the last cycle of green flag stops with less than 20 to go, getting him out ahead of Edwards and leading the last 14 laps on the way to the win. Kasey got choked up in victory lane, having lost his great-grandfather a few days earlier, dedicating this win to him, and broke an 81-race winless drought to get the ball rolling as he made the transition to Hendrick the next season. Number 4. The 2006 Coca-Cola 600. There's nothing like that first crown jewel win to make a statement of how legitimate you are as a Cup Series driver. In the midst of his breakout 6-win season, he was clicking on all cylinders on this Memorial Day weekend with the number 9 Dodge team, having already won the previous 2 mile-and-a-half races on the same shaped tracks of Atlanta and Texas. They just had this package figured out that year and no one was touching them. Once again, he wasn't quite a winning car in the early going, but he methodically worked his way forward after a mistake on pit road, and just before halfway, he got the lead and basically took over from there. There was a brief sequence late in the race where Kasey fell off slightly and the car was getting away from him, but on the last pit stop they got 2 tires and he was on the march to reclaim control. After powering by Jimmy Johnson on the outside for second, leader Carl Edwards saw that and tried to take his line away. Kasey said, "Fine, I'll pass you on the inside," and that was all she wrote. He led 158 laps that night and broke Johnson's streak of 4 straight wins there, and went on to sweep Charlotte that fall as he made a declaration that he was a force to be reckoned with. Number 3. The 2014 Oral-B USA 500 at Atlanta. This was maybe the most dramatic win of Kasey's career given the circumstances. In the first year of the playoff format, he found himself winless and on the bubble of being able to make the cut with just 2 races until the chase began. With Atlanta being one of his better tracks, it was understood this was Kasey's best shot at being a part of the 16-driver field. He wasn't in the picture early at all, and there was a lot of work to be done if he was going to be a threat. In fact, he was about a 12th place car almost the entire night and making little to no progress, but when it mattered most, he finally started moving forward as he found a new line towards the wall that was effective. After a late pit stop, he found himself in the top 5 and the win was in sight. Kevin Harvick had laid waste to the field all night, looking like no one would even sniff his draft, and the only driver that looked to have anything for him was Denny Hamlin. On a restart with 23 to go, Kasey stunningly overtook both of them and tried to run off and hide. He had pulled away from Harvick and seemed to just about have it in the bag, but of course, a caution came out with 2 to go, putting it all in doubt. Not just this win, but Kasey's playoff hopes. Everyone pitted for tires, and the 5 crew slipped up, dropping him to 5th on top of 2 drivers taking just 2 tires as well. The team looked exasperated behind pit wall as though they had just lost the race for him, but they had no idea how determined Kasey was. On the first attempted restart, a multi-car wreck broke out instantly and it took Harvick out of the equation as Kasey quickly moved up to 3rd. On the next restart, he split Hamlin and Matt Kenseth immediately and looked to pick up his pit crew and rectify the error that nearly cost him. After finishing second to Kenseth no short of about 800 times, Kasey would be damned if he was going to let another one slip away at the hands of that 20 car. He finally cleared him on the white flag, and the sense of relief paired with joy was overwhelming me when he got the checkered flag. This was more than just a win. This was negating a frustrating season and giving hope to Kasey Kahne fans again, with wins meaning a ticket to a shot at the championship for the first time ever, before we really knew how bogus that system was. Kasey would go on to make the round of 12 and was about a quarter mile from the round of 8 before Talladega happened, but on this night, it was all about celebrating Kasey. What a rush it was. Number 2, the 2005 Chevy American Revolution 400 at Richmond. This was of course Kasey's first win in the Cup Series, and it came at the most improbable time, but there was never much of a doubt in this one, as he started on the pole and led well over 200 laps on his way to the biggest night of his life at that point. The only real competition he had was Tony Stewart, and he had to stave everyone off on another typical white-knuckle late race restart, but he drove away with ease and the party was on, as the whole crowd was truly elated to see Kasey get that elusive first win that felt long overdue. He endured unfathomable heartbreak in his rookie season with 5 second-place finishes, wrecking out of the lead on several occasions when it seemed like he had it covered, coming up short time and time again by the thinnest of margins. This was unleashing all of that emotion in one single night, and the fans were well aware of all that misfortune, which is what made this extra special. The only knock on this win was that it came in the middle of statistically the worst season of Kasey's career, with a 23rd place points finish and 9 DNFs. The term sophomore slump was an understatement here, as the shock of going from Rookie of the Year and nearly making the chase in year one transitioned into whatever this was. The hope was obviously this win may be turning the corner somewhat and putting all that regression behind him, but unfortunately it was just an outlier in an otherwise forgettable season. But there's no feeling like the first time, and all that wasn't enough to take away how monumental this night was. Number 1, the 2017 Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis. You could debate this or his first win being number 1, but for me, what turned out to be Kasey's last win during the listless final stage of his career out of absolutely nowhere takes the cake for me, let alone the fact that it was at the most storied racing facility in the country. To sum it up, Kasey was fading into irrelevance at an alarming rate after that thrilling 2014 Atlanta win, largely in part to his longtime crew chief Kenny Francis leaving the team for a higher up position at Hendrick. Kasey was looking lost most weekends from 2015 onward, a shell of what he used to be and probably still could be with the right personnel. It had gotten to where him winning was becoming more and more of a pipe dream than anything, and it was depressing seeing the guy I had followed so closely and put my heart and soul into for so long fall to these depths. And what's crazy is this appeared to be just another one of those weekends, with Kasey not on anyone's radar more noticeably than any other time. Why would he? He had just 3 top 10s to that point and started 19th. It helped that the 2 best cars, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex, tangled up and took each other out with 50 to go, but Kasey still needed a prayer to have any shot at pulling this off. He was nothing more than a 15th place car for much of the day, and with Indy being a track position race, it was going to take an unorthodox strategy to make any ground. Turns out, his prayers were answered as he was making a green flag stop with 11 to go that looked as innocent as anything, but suddenly a huge crash broke out and changed everything, bringing everyone else to pit road under caution while Kasey already took care of business. He assumed the lead in the waning laps and had the clean air that was essential for him to pull off the stunner. Normally, this is the time when the guys who have been running up front all day promptly freight train by Kasey like he stopped. But since that caution came out right as he was pitting, he was pretty much on equal tires as everyone else. And when you're out front at a place like this, you have a major aero advantage. On the restart, he held off an initial charge from Brad Keselowski and started pulling away, but of course this wasn't going to be that easy. Another wreck broke out a lap later and they had to rack it up again with the intensity cranking up. This restart wouldn't be so simple, with Brad on the outside now and seeming to have a faster car. They were side by side on the backstretch and a smoking Jimmy Johnson made it 3 wide and they entered turn 3 in the same formation, all but impossible to pull off. Sure enough, Jimmy turned himself into the wall from contact with Kasey and once again provoked another restart. Kasey chose the outside lane this time, which was a mistake, but he was bailed out by yet another comically ugly crash instantly as the green came back out. You guessed it, another restart. But this restart would be different, as an arbitrary rule NASCAR had in place where an overtime line was in effect on a designated spot on the track meant if the leader crossed that line and a caution came out, the race was over. This rule lasted that one season alone for obvious reasons, but on this day, Kasey fully benefited from it. Honestly, if it wasn't for that, the race may have been called due to darkness anyway after numerous lengthy cautions and red flags, and the race had been dragging so long that Kasey was cramping all over and getting dehydrated. With one final restart though, and Brad now being the leader, he chose the outside lane this time and gave Kasey the preferred inside going into turn 1. Kasey cleared the 2 car with ease and once again took off, and as another ridiculous wreck broke out off of turn 2, he passed that overtime line just in time, and at last the circus was over. Kasey outlasted everything that was going against him at the end of this race and the struggles throughout the last 2.5 years. He was completely exhausted in victory lane and could barely even get words out, but he knew how fleeting this opportunity was and couldn't let it get away, knowing it could be the last one he ever got. Just like Atlanta in 2014, nothing was stopping him from seizing it. He didn't make much noise the rest of the season and abruptly retired the next year due to health concerns, but this win was so improbable it felt like a movie. It almost made me forget about the consistently mediocre performance during that stretch and gave us all one last night to celebrate how impactful Kasey was to us and that he still had some left in the tank. I wish I had known it was his last ever win in NASCAR. I might have celebrated it even more. And that's my list. Let me know if you agree or disagree and how you would rank them all. And hopefully this brought back some good memories and made you reappreciate how talented Kasey was. I wouldn't trade it for anything. All his wins were super special to me. Be sure to like and subscribe like your life depends on it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. This has been a Platinum Paradise video.